and to enliven. And the colour red is a disciple, Judas, colour red, and the disciple is Judas. And the location in the body is the generative centre in the lower abdomen. I'm going to mention the previous powers. Faith, strength, wisdom, love. Power, imagination, understanding. Will, order, zeal, renunciation, elimination, and lastly, life. We've learnt that every unity power is represented by a disciple. That sits fine with me, with my Methodist upbringing and Sunday school upbringing. I'm happy with that. Some people might find getting used to that a bit hard, but still, that was my cultural background. And I've found that's helped me as we've gone through the 12 months, understanding these disciples metaphysically. Now, Judas represents life, the desire to appropriate and experience the pleasure sensation. Now, we know life is full of amazing sensations, and it's tempting at times to have too much of a good thing. Whatever it is, too much of a good thing, whether it's the aroma of jasmine, the fruits of trees, or any sensual pleasures. There's so much here that we've got in this glorious life. Judas betraying Jesus is symbolic of us letting our ego run our lives. Now, we need an ego, but we need to control the ego, not let it control us. And that's what we're here to do, amongst other things. Now, this can cause tension until we take dominion and live by those universal spiritual laws, and the 5 principles are a good way we teach in Unity to help you on the path. If we let the ego take control and overdo indulgences, we can deplete energy. To such an extent, it causes imbalance in the form of illness and lifelessness. These addictions seem to take on their own energies somehow. I get a chance to say this occasionally, but some of you heard me say it, so I'm going to hear me say it again. The song Desperado, my great version, I played it last night to make sure I was on the right track, Linda Ronstadt. And she recorded a song called Desperado. And in it, she's there waiting for her cowboy partner to come home from the pub. And she's singing about desperado, these things that you're doing are hurting somehow. And I just look at the wisdom of some of those wonderful songs from that era. And we send thoughts to Linda Ronstadt, who's not too well herself now. She has MS, and she is coping very much with spiritual principles to help her guide herself through this stage. Shakespeare, Hamlet, Act 2. For there is nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. I saw Roberta mouthing that. I didn't actually have to worry too much about that. We did that at school, and it wasn't a play. Shakespeare wasn't a person I particularly read then, but we see the wisdom in not only the early songs, but in some of the stuff they tried to teach us at school. Now, God, universal intelligence in whom we live, move and be and have our being yesterday, today and tomorrow, is love and harmony. We can't put a name on God, because to put a name on God is to limit it. And we, as God is an expression, have that one power in us, and we use these powers in line with universal harmony. That's what we've come here to learn. Not only to learn, but to experience and to enjoy and to celebrate life. Now, I'm a bit of a loner, really, but when I was younger, I wasn't too keen on celebrations. Um, I had a 21st birthday party. I said to my parents, I don't want a party. And they didn't tell me, but I arrived home from work one day. There's about 10 cars out in front of the house, so there was my 21st birthday party. It was celebrated whether I wanted it or not because my parents wanted it. And it was such an interesting thing to look back on because 2 years ago, I lost one of my parents. And that 2 years ago, after my 21st, I lost one of my parents. And so that was a very, very important occasion that I'm glad I went to. Now, to celebrate means to acknowledge a significant day or a happy event. Number two, a religious or holy ceremony. Holy Communion. 3, to honour or praise publicly famous people. And some of us here have been to a public ceremony where we've had a state funeral, the first one that I've ever been to. And it was quite an occasion, a very, very important part of my life and a few others who in Unity know all about this. Now, between Christmas, we celebrate the acknowledgement of the Christ child within. And then we've got Easter, which will be on us before we know it, from Advent to Lent, where we allow this new idea of self to take hold of us, the Christ self. This, of course, is a symbolic time, the conscious awareness of Adam, human consciousness, Adam, man of dust, to Jesus, symbolizing Christ consciousness, which happens when we're ready. It's not going to happen because we've got Advent now. It'll happen when we reach that point on the path where we know exactly what's happening. Now, under the symbolism involved is always a reminder that we have in us this unique power. And as the days of our lives move on rapidly, these celebrations that we have occasionally, the symbolic celebrations, are important for us. They create memories and experiences. The celebration I want to express with us is a reminder that we have in us this unique power, the joy of life, the power of life. Regardless of the circumstances, there is always something to celebrate. I don't mean, as the song says, pretend you're happy when you're blue, but to experience the sadness and pain, be with it. Don't deny it. It's part of our life's experience here in this physical world of opposites. This battered old book's been with me everywhere. I had it by the sea in Tasmania when I was a child, sitting having a glass of beer at the Esplanade Hotel, looking out over the sea in my 20s, at different places and different times of my life. It's called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. It should fall apart at the pages, really, but I'm going to read from it because it means more and more as I get older. So, the prophet. Then, a woman said, "Speak to us of joy and sorrow." And he answered, "Your joy is your sorrow unmasked. And self-same well from which your laughter rises was often filled with tears. How else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. Some of you say, joy is greater than sorrow. Others say, nay, sorrow is the greater. But I say unto you, they are inseparable. Together they come, and when one sits alone with you at your board, remember that the other is asleep in your bed. And the final verse, verily you are suspended like scales between your sorrow and your joy. Only when you are empty are you at standstill and balanced. When the treasure keeper lifts you to weigh his gold and silver, needs must be your joy or your sorrow rise or fall. Who would have thought I'd still be looking at that little book in my late 70s? But it means different things now, doesn't it? As from youth, middle age and moving on, the text changes as we move. Same with the Ruby out of Omar Khayyam. We could say that quite gleefully and think we're all very smart saying these wonderful sayings, but all of a sudden they hit us. They're real. So that's my prophet story. Now, is there a particular time to celebrate? Officially for things, yes, because it keeps people together. Our liturgical calendar is full of days to celebrate. I get the interfaith news. I don't follow it as much as I did, but on the 10th of January, it's Bodhi Day for Buddhism. The 13th, it's Magi Day in Sikhism. The 14th, it's Pongal, don't know that one, in Hinduism. And on the 18th, it's the Buddhist New Year. And the 1st of February, it's the Chinese New Year. So is there any time that we shouldn't celebrate life? No. So what about the verse we read in Exodus 31:15? So what about the Sabbath? For 6 days work is to be done, but the 7th day is a Sabbath day of rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever doth work on the Sabbath day must be put to death. Well, I can see us all lined up for that. We've all been guilty of that. But thank goodness there's an interpretation, probably interpreted from Genesis 2nd. And on the 7th day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day from all the work. So despite all this interpretation, universal intelligence does not rest for its work because it created on the 7th day. And here is where Jesus came to move on from the old Hebrew scriptures, thou shalt not, into the new era. Blessed be, those wonderful beatitudes. Jesus said, celebrate the letter of the law, but to express the spirit of the law is what he's expressing here. From the shout not of the Old Testament to that wonderful Sermon on the Mount. An example of Jesus doing it. From the Hebrew scriptures, the disciples were hungry, so they picked some ears of corn in the fields. But it just so happened it was the Sabbath day. The Pharisees, today would label them the fundamentalists, were not happy about this. And they protested to Jesus. Jesus replied, saying, how King David, in need of food, would go into the temple and eat food that only the priests were allowed to eat. He would do this on any day of the week, even the Sabbath. And he finished his explanation, the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. I remember when I was in high school and state school, the place used to shut down on Sunday. There was no football, which was very sad. The shops were shut. And look at it now. As we speak, people are having lunch at the pubs and they're out there playing football and they're celebrating life. So we can do it anytime without the fear that thunder and lightning are going to rain over us. So look, all of a sudden I realise time is moving on, but I'm going to quote from my other old book, The Ruby App. Do we need heaps of people around us to celebrate? No. Here's a verse from the Ruby App. Here, with a loaf of bread beneath the bough, a flask of wine, a book of verse, and thou, beside me singing in the wilderness, and the wilderness is paradise now. Now, there are religious occasions when the word celebrate is used for some rather solemn occasions. Some churches celebrate Mass. I can fully, and I know some of you here agree, that we can participate in this because we know the metaphysical meaning of the bread and the wine. We'll hear more about this over the next couple of weeks. But just for now, the breaking of the bread metaphysically represents the stirring into action in consciousness of the inner substance of spirit. And the sharing of wine symbolizes the vitality that forms a connecting link between soul and body. Other groups celebrate change of seasons with special ritual, which we're also fond of. The solstice, for example, the 4 seasons. So I think I better sum up here. I can celebrate by being mindful, present here and now, in many big and small ways, alone or with others. Most of all, we celebrate more when we celebrate with others, I think. So we're looking forward to seeing you at our Christmas candlelighting ceremony next week in person. So why wait? Just let's celebrate and give thanks. When I say living life to the full, that doesn't mean we are action at all times. Rest and even doing nothing is an essential part of what the Bible says. Come ye apart, be still, and know that I am God. In the Gospel of Thomas, one of my favourite quotes, Jesus describes life as a movement and a rest. A movement and a rest. A movement and a rest. The key behind that is balance. What we give out and share in love, harmony and joy, we know that by the universal law of attraction, it comes back to us in a similar way. Knowing that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, we can mindfully be thankful, even for all the challenges. The blessings and challenges are part of our journey here on the way, on this schoolroom, on the planet of Mother Earth. Even in the challenging times, we find something to celebrate. And the biggest celebration is the celebration of the joy of life now. So be it. Thank you. Oh.